1460 WVOX.
Stay tuned now for the Racing for Heroes radio show with host Brett Morash on 1460 WVOX.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is October 2nd. We're having our show from here in WVOX in New Rochelle, 1460 in your AM dial and worldwide at www.wvox.com. Today, we're going to focus on a couple veterans from the Vietnam War era. One served in country, and he'll be our first guest, and the other one was activated for the Newark Riots. I think when we look at kind of the current things going on in the world, you still need people who are medics, who are going to help with dust-off missions, and you're still going to have things like the National Guard activated for the ongoing challenges that we've had this year. So we thought it'd be great to kind of talk to both of them about their experiences. So our first guest is a longtime friend of mine and my family. It's Dr. Keith Phillips, who's a dentist, retired, and grew up in Greenville, Tennessee, where I know a lot of our Racing for Heroes universe are driving on tracks out there. Went to Stetson University. I'm going to ask him about that in a minute. And then eventually through Georgetown Dental before going active duty in the U.S. Army from 1969 through 71. And he was in country from 70 to 71. So, Doc Phillips, are you there?
I am, Brett.
All right, Doc. Hey, thanks so much.
Oh, I think anchors away.
I think they were playing Run Through the Jungle for you, the guys in the back. So, all right, guys, turn it down. So, Doc, listen, thanks for being on the show today. My pleasure. And one of the things I want to ask you is, you had an interesting experience in Vietnam in particular because you weren't just a dentist. You were there doing medic work. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a double MOS. We had, after our senior year, been sort of drafted. I say sort of, but they came around and said that if you don't join the Army, you will be drafted out of your practice. So, of course, we all raised our hand. Right. I went to medical field service school at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, which was the first-class ticket to Vietnam.
Oh, you bet.
So I had a double MOS. I practiced both equally, probably, and it was quite an experience. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And actually, one interesting thing I wanted to ask you is, I always refer to medics in the Navy, corpsmen, as Doc. And so, I think that, you having been a medic and actually a doctor as well, what do you think of that? I think personally, I think it's an honorable thing to say. So what do you think, Doc? I think you're absolutely correct. Listen, I served with those young men. They had all the experience in the world, and God bless them because they saved many lives. The ones they couldn't save, they at least helped to go to a better place.
Yeah, for sure, Doc. I think at the end of the day, you were really out there helping people that were in country and were clearly impacted by war. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, about maybe like a mission you had, especially on the helicopters, because last week, if you hadn't tuned in, we actually had one of our guests who had saved one of our drivers back in Afghanistan, back in Iraq, back in the 2007 timeframe. So maybe just tell us a little bit about the experience.
Well, I was primarily stationed in a town called Ban Me To It, which was up near it would be the western part of Vietnam, near the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And at the time, we were not supposed to be in Cambodia, but guess what? We were in Cambodia. Got a call for a pickup on an LZ, which is a landing zone in Cambodia. It was a slab of concrete on the side of a mountain. We went in at night, which was sort of like looking at the 4th of July, because, as you know, every fifth round is a tracer, and it's red. And there was all sorts of, bombs and grenades and rockets and everything else going off. So it was kind of akin to going in to an area on the 4th of July for a pickup. I had to get off the chopper and help with a buyer, which is a stretcher, to get a couple of wounded onto the chopper itself. The chopper started taking off without me, and I had to grab the center bar and stand on the runner for about 20, 30 miles back to our base camp and bam me to it, which was quite an experience. And that was probably the most harrowing one that I had. All the time you could hear the pings of bullets hitting the side of the plane. Thank goodness they weren't very good shots, or I wouldn't be talking to you today.
You bet.
Yeah, that was probably my worst. There were a lot of them, though, Brett. When you're flying around on a helicopter, you don't know what's under you. You don't know what's in those woods or in those thickets. You could hear them, hitting the plane, but thank goodness, they don't hit anybody else or you don't go down. I think that probably our chief worry was not getting killed, but was getting captured.
Oh, for sure.
And when you're flying around on a helicopter, that's your chief concern, and it was something that we had to live with. Probably, every day of 365 days was a combat day. I had an interesting statistics. I think you and I talked before that the average combat soldier in World War II saw 10 days of combat, actual combat. In Vietnam, we saw 240 actual days of combat.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is quite a difference,
No, and I think even now, if you look at the troops that are in, forward deploy, whether it be in Syria or Afghanistan, there is no front line. And, you lived in a war where there really was no front line as well. And, you're constantly under that stress.
Got dropped, sorry.
Yeah, I think we briefly dropped Keith. We're going to have him call back in. I'm sure he'll try calling back in. So, but, one of the things that, really, I think about, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about on this particular show was that, as many things in the military, and Doc Phillips is back on, as many of those things happen, there's a lot of things that are very similar today and a lot of things that are different. But at the end of the day, you're still, a medic patching someone up in the field. And the gear might be better now, but it doesn't mean that, the experience is any less harrowing. Although, they don't have skids anymore on the Blackhawks, Doc. So, I think your story would have been a little different. Yeah,
it would have been different. Thank goodness,
Yeah. No, and listen, thanks, Doc. Listen, this also is a show about cars, and I know that you, in fact, are a car aficionado. If anyone who follows your Facebook page knows, you're constantly putting cars up there. And so, what was your muscle car? I know you had like a not to genderize it, but it was pretty manly vehicle back in the day. So, what do you tell us about your car?
My favorite muscle car is the Pontiac GTO, anywhere from 65 to 69. Power machine. Pontiacs at that time built racing machines. They were awesome because you could take them and put lake pipes, moon hubcaps, glass packs, and you could go down the road. And when we were young, you could have any young lady you wanted because you had the most powerful car in the world. I mean, that was sort of a symbol.
Yeah.
That you were a chick magnet.
I don't know if we can use those. I won't say that word, but I appreciate the sentiment. So tell me. So wait, you actually had a breakdown that you told me about the other day on that car. So can you tell us about the time you broke down ish?
Well,
I think we lost Dr. Phillips again. He was about ready to tell us his. Oh,
I'm here, Brett.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You were telling us. So tell us about your story. What happened?
Well, this directly sort of involves you and your mother-in-law, the general.
That's what we call it.
I had just gotten a 60. I think it was a 67 GTO.
Nice.
Convertible fixed up and had it all Carolina blue, white top, white interior,
and nice.
Everything you could think of, and Patty and Hank Margata, who you know very well,
yep.
who I think is one of my heroes. He was an Army man. But we were on our way to Leesburg, Virginia, and you had to get on a ferry to go there. And at the time, I thought I had everything in shape, but my GTO brakes gave out before I got to the ferry, and I was scared to death because I kept having to go slow and slow down, just to turn around and go back home. And thank goodness that when we got back to my house, my driveway was uphill, so that when I got to my driveway and I got to the end, I was able to stop it with my foot, only because I was going uphill.
Wait, like Fred Flintstone? Like you put your foot out the side?
Yeah, I put my foot out the side and was dragging it along, just to stop the car so I wouldn't go down into my backyard,
That's amazing.
But it was a little exciting for Patty and Hank. And
undoubtedly.
wife and I,
Undoubtedly. My kids talk about my mother-in-law's driving now, but we will not talk about that on this show. Hey, listen, I have one last question because we have another caller coming in after Doc. And again, thank you for everything. I think in this show, due to your kind of long history of listening to music, and I'm not going to say, you're old, you're venerable. One of the real pressing questions that we have to ask is, are you an Elvis or a Beatles guy? Which one?
I'd have to say Elvis.
Nice. All right.
Elvis's Sun sessions are classic.
You bet. And
Can I say one thing, Brent? I'd like to pay homage to two people that one you're directly involved with because it's your wife's father.
Yeah.
One that was her stepfather, and that's Hank Margada and Dick Cavanaugh, who was a Vietnam veteran, wounded, came back home, contracted cancer, and died at age 31.
Yep.
Consider him my hero, as I do Hank Margada.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'll pass that along to Aline and Patty, of course.
They should be listening today.
No, well, Aline's teaching first grade over at Iona Prep, so that she's with little kids in the classroom.
What about the general?
I'm sure that she is watching some daytime soap opera, but that's kind of the way those things go. So listen, Doc Phillips, I really appreciate your time today. Hopefully I'll have a chance to have you back on again soon. Thank you for your service.
Anytime, Brett.
All right, thanks, Doc. And we're gonna be going to our second caller here pretty quickly. So go ahead, guys. I have known him maybe for like the past 2 years. He is a accomplished businessman. He owns a body shop in New Jersey alongside his brother, and he has just had an amazing story. He's also won a major national race on sailboats, and is how I know him. And just a great guy. And for all you people out there. Who do remember music from that time frame. Robin has hair like Wolfman Jack, and he I hear you laughing, Robin. And it is absolutely one of my favorite people when I see him on the waterfront. Always has a smile and always it takes the time to talk. So, Robin, thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure, and good morning to you.
Good morning to you. And listen, I'm so excited to have you on the show. And I think like many people who join the military, sort of the lead-in story of like how did you get there is really kind of one of those questions that I want to ask. So tell us about like how did you even get in the military in the first place?
Well, that's interesting because, my father was, we were all born in, for the most part, in Jersey City. My brother Carl, who's my business partner, was the only one born in New Jersey in the Hackensack Medical Center. And Dad was, a typical firstborn Italian-American, so was Mom. Mm-hmm. And we came out of Jersey City, so, at those days, when you were an immigrant Italian, you voted, Democrat. Otherwise, you got cursed at, So he was not a big fan of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
He really didn't want his three boys. We had an older sister who he lost, unfortunately, at a young year. and then he had 3 boys. And my older brother, Fred, who's listening, he went and volunteered for the New Jersey National Guard in the 104th Engineers in Teaneck Armory in Teaneck, New Jersey. And he went in ahead of me about 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I joined right out of high school, and I volunteered for the New Jersey National Guard.
Gotcha.
And that would be when I was 19. But I actually ended up going in for the federal part of that in early January of 1967.
Yeah, for sure.
So Dad was concerned. He was really not a guy who really liked war. I mean, no one likes war, of course, but things happen. And he went and worked for Bendix Corporation for 31 years, and they built a lot of gyroscopes and military type items for airplanes, so on and so forth.
Yeah, they still make them.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
But Bendix, where he worked in Teterboro, New Jersey, is no longer there.
Oh, okay.
It's now a Walmart.
Yeah. No, for sure. In fact, I had Bendix equipment on the ships I was on, just gauges and stuff like that. So obviously they go way back.
Yeah, they were known for their brake company, which was their big thing out in Illinois, and then they went into aeronautics and military equipment, big time.
Yeah, you bet. And so, Robin, so when you were in the Guard, and I again, you were serving in the National Guard, and there was an expectation, certainly in '67, that they were going to call up the Guard. You actually got activated for one of the things I think is really interesting to our listeners, because I know a lot of times we focus on the riots and we kind of look at it from kind of the outside in, but one of the things that always occurs to me is like there's a National Guardsman that's there that has a family, or whether it be their parents or they actually have kids, they're getting activated too, and they're kind of thrown into the mix in this, and I think your story is going to be very similar to ones that we might hear about the folks who are activated ongoing now, and of course with Newark, and I posted some stuff on our Facebook page, but in Newark, they kind of still measure the things going on in Newark based upon the lead into the riots of '67. And I'm not going to debate, the reasons why the riots happened, but, I'm really more interested in like what the infantryman's point of view was on that. So, Robin, just tell us about your experience.
Well, the riots for my brother and I were somewhat different because he had been in the National Guard. He had done his federal duty in Fort Dix, and I believe his advanced training, his AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, was also Fort Dix. I went in 4 years later in January of 1967, and I went in and I got the advanced training and the basic training side by side and did all the Vietnam training in Fort Dix.
Yep.
We did, back in those days, we did 10 days of orientation. They would give you these injections with a gun, not a needle, and your arm was very sore.
They still do.
And I have to tell you that the basic training was very, very difficult. First of all, it was snowing a lot back in those days.
Yeah.
And, we were out in the snow with troops of 125 in a platoon, and they taught us to throw hand grenades and shoot rocket launches and M79 grenade launches and a lot of weaponry, and I ended up being a sharpshooter.
Okay.
And after I did my basic training in Fort Dix, my AIT and my MOS, which was what you do and you specialize in, was combat engineer.
Right.
So I got shipped on a 4-propeller Constellation aircraft in a storm to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I did all my training out there. And what they taught me out there was pretty rough stuff. I mean, we did a 5-mile force march with full gear every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we got to build M4 T6 floating bridges, and we got to build timber trestle bridges.
Oh, wow.
And what was pretty exciting for me at 19 years old was we got to blow them up. So there was a whole demolition part of that.
Right.
And I had mentioned to you recently that one of the things that I found amazing was the 50-pound crater charge, which was an anti-tank weapon.
It's still around. It's awesome.
Oh, really? It's an upside-down rocket that just blows a wedge in the earth 20 feet deep, and, of course, the tank gets trapped in there so that you can, in the war zone, you can destroy the tank.
Yeah. And let me ask you, did they call Fort Leonard Wood Fort Lost in the Woods back then?
We called it the Sand and Gravel Fort because there really wasn't a whole lot to do there when you were off duty on furlough or whatever. And it was really in a desolate area in the southwestern corner of Missouri.
Well, I think anyone who served in the Army Engineers would probably agree that even today it's pretty austere, to use a word.
Yeah, it is. It was sand and gravel, nowhere to go. I think there was a little town named Wrightstown nearby that we would go in and have a few beers and, complain. Cry in our beers, we say.
Cry in your beers.
So I got out of the Fort Leonard advanced training, which was pretty big. I mean, they really pushed your buttons, and you learned so much. What I learned from the military in the federal duty is, I had been a pretty rough teenager once I got into like 11th grade.
Yeah,
I sort of was a and a B student headed for Cornell to become a veterinarian.
Okay.
And like my wonderful mother-in-law used to say, show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. Well, I started hanging around with a bunch of guys that really weren't doing the right thing, and we got into a lot of trouble in my junior year, senior year. So when I do my motivational talks, I'm also a retired high school coach, I would always bring in my dress uniform and bring in my motorcycle colors and say, this got me into a lot of trouble, and this green uniform that's nice and shiny made me the businessman I am today, and the father and the husband I was all those years. It was pretty tough stuff.
Yeah,
but when I got out of the Fort Leonard, Missouri, I came back in May, mid-May, right before my birthday, my 20th birthday, and little did I know on July 12th, just 6-8 weeks later, we would end up with these race riots in Newark. That was just a terrible experience for me at 20 years old. My older brother and my mother had 2 of her 3 boys in the riots. She was worried to death, of course. I had the best parents in the world. They were boaters and campers and all that, so they didn't want to see their kids going into that type of thing. There was live gunfire going on. I mean, Newark was on fire. And, so to be honest with you, right now, 50-some years later, here we go again. And what bothers me is we haven't improved.
Yeah.
I think the blame goes on both sides.
Yep.
Neither side has really done the right thing. So here we are more than a half a century later, and we're back to the same thing again, and we're doing something wrong. And may you be black, may you be white, may you be red, whatever you are, we all got a piece of what's doing wrong here.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think that sentiment is shared, certainly by myself, and I believe it's shared by a lot of the people that are out there now, and we can only hope that the country will heal from this and will be better at the end.
We have to do better than we're doing now. This is not good for anybody, regardless of what side you're on.
Yeah.
We got to find some more middle ground, and people need to sit down and talk, whether they be left, whether they be right, whatever color you are. We need to sit down, use our brains. We need to get money and education going in the urban communities and make people better.
Agree. And Robin, listen, we're actually running short on time, so I tell us about this race that you won.
Well, that was, I've done a lot of racing. I have about 30,000 plus miles offshore deliveries and races.
Wow.
I've made 11 trips to Bermuda and more than 20 trips to the Bahamas and the BVIs. But back in the day, I decided to stick my neck out and race with what's called the J44s. It's a 44-foot boat. I spent my time on a boat called Vamp. I did about 6 years on Vamp with wonderful Lenny Sitar. What a great captain. And then later I went on to a boat called Diogenes out of Rye, New York, owned by Malcolm Doc Clark.
Wow.
Both of these guys are past Commodores at great clubs, and they showed me the way. And, like anything in life, what you do is when you want to do well, you got to get help.
You bet.
So I bought this boat after many years of training, and I decided to give it a shot. Let me go out there as a captain, write the checks, and go see if I can do well. And I bought a Sovereign 33, and it's a wonderful boat. I bought it off a wonderful guy that was at Huguenot Yacht Club called Bill A. Dykes. And I fixed the boat up after it was damaged and all that. And we made 3 attempts to go for the national title for the Sovereign 33. And in 2005, we did 5 vicious races with 8 boats on August 28th and 29th. And I'll tell you, the competition was tough.
Oh, yeah.
And we ended up, it was low scoring. We only won by 2 points.
Oh, boy.
It was a wonderful victory. But I had a great tactician on the boat.
Yep.
My crew was wonderful. And by the time we made our 3rd attempt, I think we were pretty together. And we went out there and did the battle. 3 races on Saturday, 2 races on Sunday, and they took the best of 4.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And again, I mean, I know you're an incredible sailor, and you know your new boat is lovely. So, and we're getting close to.
Well, you might say I'm sort of switching over to the dark side.
Well, we're not going to.
Some of the members at our club call me a stink potter now, because I have a power boat.
Yeah, but now you're going to be our committee boat, so you have to look at it from the backup committee boat.
Well, I've been doing that, and I enjoy helping the sailors, and I certainly enjoy having the club grow and do well. Yeah. And I'm a member of a couple of clubs, and I like to help them all.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, we're getting to kind of the last couple minutes of the show, so I just have a couple of questions for you. So first one is domestic or import? What's your favorite?
Say again?
Domestic cars or imported cars? What's your favorite?
Well, I own both. So I was trained by GM. So in my early days, they sent me to Tarrytown, and they sent me down to Springfield, New Jersey, and I basically got training through GM dealers. So my background comes from dealerships, General Motors.
Sure. Yeah, and you do that now for a living, obviously, with your shop, with your brothers.
We have a little body shop in Hackensack, family business. Mom and dad are gone now, but my brother and I have a manager in here, Greg. Yeah. And we're in business for 44 years, and we still come here every day with a smile on our face. Yep. We enjoy coming here, and we actually like to help people.
Yep. And what's the name of your shop?
It's Ricca, R-I-C-C-A Auto Body.
Ricca Auto Body. So
and we do some fiberglass repairs. So occasionally we'll do a boat also.
Okay, all right, good. And then of course, the question we asked to Dr. Phillips, we're going to ask you: are Elvis or Beatles?
Beatles.
Beatles. Wow, why is that?
I don't know. I was a Pink Floyd guy back in those days. Beatles, Pink Floyd. Rolling Stones.
That's amazing. All right. Well, listen, I do want to thank you again. And that song is the end of the show. So, Robin, thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
My pleasure. We all got to keep helping each other out.
You bet, brother. All right, everyone, if you have a chance, please check out our website, www.racingforheroes.org. We have a couple of events going on this month. We have a raffle for ATV going on. Check out our website. You'll see it. And then if you want to race, we have a 5K. We have a 5K race coming up as well. Again, go to our website www.racingforheroes.org. And this has been Racing for Heroes Radio on 1460 on the AMW WVOX, streaming worldwide at wvox.com. Thanks and have a fantastic day.